Hello, world. I want to talk about something that's been keeping me up at night. America is splitting into two tracks. Not rich and poor, that's too simple. I'm talking about people who own capital and people who sell their labor. Think of it as a K-shaped society. The top leg of the K represents people who own assets, stocks, businesses, real estate, intellectual property. The bottom, vastly larger leg represents people who don't own capital. People whose entire financial existence depends on selling their time. Here's what makes this dangerous. Capital grows exponentially, labor degrades over time. Your mind and body age, your skills become obsolete. But a stock portfolio, a business, those things compound. They grow while you sleep. Now, here's the data. The top 10% of Americans hold roughly 67% of all wealth in this country. The bottom 50%, they hold about 2.5%. That's not a gap, that's a chasm, and it's getting wider. After 2020, the recovery was starkly K-shaped. Asset owners saw record gains. Stocks surged. Real estate skyrocketed. Crypto went nuclear. Meanwhile, wage earners lost ground to inflation. Real wages, when you adjust for housing and healthcare costs, have been flat or negative for the bottom half. The S&P 500 returned about 25% in 2024. Who benefits from that? The top 10%, who hold 89% of all stocks. And then there's AI. This is the accelerant. McKinsey estimates that 30% of work activities could be automated by 2030. A Brookings report in 2025 found that AI-driven productivity gains are accruing disproportionately to capital owners, not to workers. Think about what that means. When a company deploys AI and becomes more productive, who benefits? The shareholders, the owners, not the workers who got replaced. And we're seeing it happen in real time. Over 300,000 tech workers were laid off across big tech in 2024 and 2025. Many of them are not being rehired at equivalent positions. The jobs that used to be safe, coding, writing, legal research, financial analysis, those are the jobs AI is coming for first. Here's something that should scare you. The half-life of a technical skill is now about 2.5 years. A decade ago, it was 5 years or more. Your skills expire faster than you can replace them. So what happens to people who don't own anything? Not metaphorically. I mean people who don't own meaningful financial assets. No investment portfolio, no business, no real estate, no capital generating income. People whose entire financial existence depends on selling their time and labor. There are two possible outcomes. The first is revolution. The gap becomes unbearable, the game board gets flipped and everyone starts over equal. It's happened before in history, it's a real possibility. But there's a second outcome, and I think it's more likely. The two legs of the K just keep growing wider. Social mobility becomes structurally impossible. If you're born on the bottom leg, you stay on the bottom leg. And here's the uncomfortable truth. You can't plan for revolution. You have to plan for the system as it exists. You have to assume the game continues. But let me push back on my own argument for a second, because this story has holes. After World War II, America went through a period of massive wealth redistribution. The top marginal tax rate was over 90% in the 1950s. The GI Bill sent millions to college, unions were strong, the middle class was built. Policy can reverse concentration. It's happened before. In homeownership, 65% of Americans own their home. That is capital. It contradicts the narrative that the middle class owns nothing. The question is whether this time is different, whether AI is a fundamentally different kind of disruption. Because every previous technological revolution, electricity, the internet, the printing press, eventually created more jobs than it destroyed. But what if AI is the one that doesn't? What if this time, the skills that matter change faster than humans can adapt? So let's say you're starting from zero, no savings, maybe negative net worth. Maybe you just got laid off. How do you actually escape? The answer is not what most financial advice tells you. Most advice says, get a job, save money, buy index funds, wait 30 years. That advice assumes you have consistent income to invest, that you have 30 years to wait, that the rules won't change before you get there. For a lot of people, those assumptions don't hold. So here's what I think actually works. It's a phased approach, and it starts not with investing, but with stabilization. Phase 1, stabilize months 1 through 3. Cut your expenses to the bone. Every dollar you don't spend is a dollar that can be deployed later. Inventory everything you have, and I don't just mean money. Your skills are capital, your network is capital, your code, your content, your knowledge of AI tools. That's all non-financial capital that can be converted into financial capital. Eliminate high-interest debt first. Credit card debt at 20% interest is an emergency. It's an anchor dragging you down. Pay it off before anything else, and secure any income stream you can, even a small one. You need a floor under you before you can build upward. Phase 2. Build the engine, months 3 through 12. This is where you start acquiring capital, even small amounts. Here's the thing about index funds. They're the foundation. VTI gives you ownership in thousands of companies for a fraction of a percent in fees. 3 basis points, you own a slice of the entire American economy. VU tracks the S&P 500. VXUS gives you international exposure. These aren't get-rich-quick schemes. They own a piece of the machine schemes, $50 a month, $100 a month. It doesn't matter how small. What matters is that you start the compounding engine, because the math of compounding is brutal in both directions. If you start late, you lose exponentially. If you start early, even with tiny amounts, you gain exponentially. Fractional shares mean you can buy pieces of a share with whatever you have. Fidelity, Schwab, Robinhood, they all offer this now. But index funds alone aren't enough if you're starting from zero. You need cash flow assets too. There's a difference between appreciating assets and cash flow assets. Index funds appreciate, they build wealth over decades, but they don't pay you monthly. Cash flow assets do. Dividend stocks, rental real estate, an online business, a YouTube channel, a digital product, a course. These are things that generate revenue without your continuous time. A $29 course sold 100 times is $2,900 in asset income. A YouTube channel with 10,000 subscribers can generate $500 to $2,000 a month. These are assets you can build while you still have a day job. And here's the key insight. You need both types. Cash flow keeps you alive while appreciation builds your wealth. Now here's where it gets interesting. AI is not just the threat, it's also the tool. One person with AI tools can now do the work that required a 5-person team 5 years ago. Content creation, code generation, customer service, data analysis, market research. This is the arbitrage opportunity of our lifetime. You can build assets at solo person speed with team level output. You can create a YouTube channel, generate scripts, produce videos, write code, build tools, all amplified by AI. The people who figure out how to use AI as a force multiplier are the ones who will build capital fastest. Not because they're smarter, but because they have leverage. Leverage is the difference between trading hours for dollars and building assets that scale. Let's talk about real estate. It's the most accessible leveraged capital for most people. House hacking is the entry point. You buy a property, live in one room, rent out the others. Your tenants pay your mortgage. You build equity with someone else's money. That's leverage. If you can't buy property yet, there are REITs, real estate investment trusts. These are companies that own and operate real estate, and you can buy shares on the stock market. It's fractional real estate ownership platforms like Fundrise and Arrived let you invest in real estate with as little as $10. You don't need to be a landlord to own real estate. You just need to own a piece of something that generates rent. Phase 3, scale. Years 1 through 3. This is where you shift the ratio. The goal is to move from labor income to portfolio income. In year 1, maybe 10% of your income comes from things you own. A YouTube channel, some dividend stocks, a small digital product. By year 2, 25%. By year 3, you want at least half your income coming from assets, not from hours you trade for a paycheck. And here's the rule that makes this work. Every dollar of asset income gets reinvested into more assets. You don't spend it, you don't upgrade your lifestyle, you buy more of the machine, more index funds, more content, more tools, more equity, until the passive income covers your baseline living expenses. And that point, that's escape velocity, phase 4. When your passive income covers your burn rate, you're on the top leg of the K, your capital grows on its own, you work because you want to, not because you have to. And this is where the compounding really takes off, because you're no longer pulling money out to survive. Every dollar stays invested, every dollar generates returns, every return gets reinvested, the snowball grows. Now this sounds simple, and it is simple, but simple doesn't mean easy. The hard part is the years between phase 2 and phase 4, when you're grinding, building, and the progress feels invisible, when your index fund portfolio is still small, when your YouTube channel has 200 subscribers, when your digital product sells 3 copies a month. That's when most people quit. Let me be honest about something. There's a counter argument to all of this, and it matters. The just buy index funds advice has a survivorship bias. It assumes you have consistent income to invest. It assumes the market keeps going up. It assumes you have decades to wait. When you're unemployed, when you're starting from zero, those assumptions don't hold. And there's a deeper critique. Some economists argue that we're in a transition period, not a permanent state, that new job categories will emerge the way they did with the internet, with electricity, with every technological revolution, that labor value doesn't depreciate. It shifts, the skills that matter change, but human adaptability has historically kept pace. Maybe this time isn't different. Maybe the K is cyclical, not structural. Maybe policy will catch up, wealth taxes, universal basic income, stronger labor protections. Maybe the revolution comes peacefully through the ballot box, not the streets. But here's what I keep coming back to. You can't bet on maybe. You can't plan your family's future on the hope that policy will fix things. You can't wait for the revolution. You have to act as if the system continues as it is, because it probably will. And if it doesn't, if the game board does get flipped, well, owning capital still doesn't hurt. Having skills still doesn't hurt. Having built something still doesn't hurt. The path I'm describing works in both scenarios. The path of doing nothing, of hoping things get better, of waiting for someone else to fix it, that only works in one scenario, and it's the less likely one. So let me leave you with something concrete. If you're starting from zero, here's your roadmap. First 3 months, stabilize, cut expenses, kill debt, inventory your skills, secure any income. Months 3 through 12, start the engine, open a brokerage account, buy fractional shares of VTI every month, even if it's $50. Start building one income generating asset, a channel, a product, a tool, a service. Learn AI tools, they're your leverage. Years 1 through 3, scale, shift the ratio from labor to capital, reinvest everything, diversify. Year 3 and beyond, escape velocity, passive income covers your life. You're on the top leg of the K. The window is open right now. It's getting narrower every day, but it's still open, and the only thing worse than starting late is not starting at all. I think about this a lot, not in the abstract. Personally, I spent 25 years in tech. I thought I was safe. I thought my skills were my security. They weren't. Skills depreciate, capital compounds. That's the equation. And if you don't own the second term, the first one will eventually run out. The question isn't whether this is fair. It isn't. The question is what you're going to do about it. Start small. Start now. Start with whatever you have, but start.